All right, guys. Hey, it's Sam here. Mid-morning. What are we? October 3rd, and I'm starting with a bit of a remake here, or a redo. I apparently had some audio difficulties with this video on this what I was trying to do on Dash, Monero, Neo, and NEM yesterday. So I guess the audio cut out about halfway through. So let's revisit it. It actually can be kind of interesting to go back and revisit what you'd drawn up the day before to see how that played out. So here is Dash, and this has been, it's been very technical. So looking here, this is the box I drew yesterday, right? So, and nothing you haven't seen 100 times if you're following me. We can see a nice 5-wave sequence here. It's not the prettiest impulse wave I've seen, but it's technically valid. 3 is not the shortest. We get a clear separation of those 5 waves, and we've had this 3-wave correction after a very technical impulse here. So, for the bulls, we're looking at this as that was a 4 low, and that there's a 5 high, much beyond this chart, and up into the 5s and 600s. So if we look here, this is pretty textbook, right? So we had this congestion period here where it was just untradeable. There was no clarity. All we knew is that we had an impulse, and then we had some unusual action here for a second wave. Well, it's not until that breaks and we come down here and test the 50 that a trade sets up. So all I've done is draw a box here between the 50 and the 618. Right? It's exactly where you would expect it to go. Now, keep in mind, a 2 can go as far as a 786. That's not uncommon. But for us looking to trade this and looking for risk reward profiles that give us the kind of upside to make the risk worthwhile, this is probably a reasonable entry point. So we've got the market somewhat oversold here. RSI is pinned down here. What are we at? 20. I've got the on-balance volume here, which is, we'd like to see a little bit of a turn there. So, there's definitely a trade here that, you could certainly enter the market right here with a stop under the 65. Ideally, you might, wait for a green candle or some signs of some strength there. The market is there's Bitcoin selling off a bit today, so you have some softness across the whole crypto space. But you're just sitting here, and I've got a 4-hour chart. You're just sitting here right at the 50. Just, hasn't really broken, just sitting there nicely. So there's absolutely a trade there. Risk reward, well, if we're risking down to the just on the other side of the 65, and your first target is up here at the negative 23, right? If that ends up being a third wave, well, now let me draw it here. So we know, right? We know the most likely targets, and you see we're getting a little bit of a green candle now. The most likely destination for a third wave, if that does become an impulsive third wave, would be up here at the 1618, between 162 and 175%. Right? So, we've got a risk reward profile there that's, pretty favorable. So even if you bought it right here, and if this let me try that again. If we bought it here at this 50, where we're starting to see the price. Yeah, man, what is my problem here? One more time, or I'm going to just bail on that. Try it one more time. I'll bring it over to the side. I don't know why it's not letting me move it higher. Last try. Okay. Well, we can just visually look at it. And recognize that if our risk is here and our return is up here, that's going to be 8 to 1, 9 to 1, maybe even 10 to 1. Now, if we go a little bit deeper, right, all that does is improve. So, and if you're a buyer here, first target here, negative 23, just off the fib pull, because we know that's algo target. But if this is going to go impulsive, then we've got some pretty substantial targets up here. We've got the upper side of the channel. We've got the destination here for a true impulse if this is really going to start to rip, which would be the 1618. So that's a nice looking trade sitting right there. And again, maybe we get a little turn up on the RSI, the OBV starts to turn up and go green. There's a lot of there's a lot says that there's a trade sitting there right now for you to take. Right. And the safer, if you want to play it safe, if you're uncomfortable buying that pullback, you can take the safer play, which would be to look for this. Right. So if that's going to be our pivot, then we're going to look for something like this. And let me put the wave on it just to make it easier to see. Let's take it down a level. And I'll go to a white. And let's show the wave. All right, so if you're uncomfortable because of the softness in the market, or for whatever reason, or just your money management rules, or how whatever the rationale is, it's absolutely a reasonable position to wait for this to show signs of a low. We get the first move up, and then we take the first pullback. That's a safer way, almost always, to approach buying a market that's selling off like this, right? So it really just depends on, how much money you want to allocate to it, what your risk tolerance is, account size, etc. And, how diversified are you across the market currently? If you're all in cash, then this is a place where you could certainly, take a nibble at it here and with a stop under the 65, knowing that we could come down to the 786. So we have a little bit of structural confluence here at the cross of the midpoint of the downsloping channel and the trend line here that's supported the market from the absolute low. So, that's a contender structurally, and that would be at the 786. Would be a perfectly valid spot for that wave 2 to go. But, again, that's one to absolutely watch. If you're not a buyer here, look for some reaction here, and you might take it down. I'm on a 4-hour here. You might go down to a smaller time frame, see if that breaks, in some 5-wave structure. Likely to hit a little resistance at the trend line, and then perhaps there's a retrace, and there's your entry, because at that point now you're entering here on the assumption that we're now starting a 5-wave impulsive move. If you're buying the 50, then your stop is below the pivot here, right? So that's the assumption. That's a good pivot. We move off of it, the first retrace, and there's your entry, right? So 2 ways that you can look at that always, but particularly when you're on these longer time frames, to say, I like it, but I know it could go down here. So I'm going to wait and see some evidence of this starting to turn and then wait for the first pullback, right? That's a really reasonable way to approach the market. So, this is just a personal call. For me, I'd take a small entry right there and look to add, right? If I get some movement there, then I get more confidence in that pivot. Right now, it's just sitting at a 50, which we know is likely to draw some algo activity, right? So one to keep an eye on. Let's go over to trying to recreate what we did yesterday. This is Monero. Now the reason I wanted to go and visit Monero is because this was a loser, right? And I don't want to just show you setups and winners. I want to be sure that we look at losers. What kind of impact is there, and does that mean the trade is invalidated, or is there a potential reload? So here was the trade that we were working off of. We had this nice upsloping trend line / channel that looked like it was in play. So we had a leading diagonal here as a potential one, which we still have. And then we were taking the first pullback at the upsloping channel line here, which happened to be right at a 50. So we took it and got stopped out. I think it was right here at the 200. So we had the combination. I'll draw it again so we can show it. We had the combination of, you can see it right there. Okay, so there's the 50, there's the 200, there's the upsloping channel line. That was a reasonable trade. It went down and just wicked just past the 65, and that markets will do that. And then of course it reacts, right? So there's a little. I took the stop there. It doesn't hurt me. Nobody likes to get stopped out, but I never put myself in a position where any one particular trade is going to really hurt me. So that's just a little, it's just a little FU from the market, right? So as soon as you're wicked out, boom, then it responds. But that said, right, your best case here, even if you had stayed with that trade, you got up here and you did not get impulsive activity like we would be looking for if that was our 2. If That was our 2. There were clues here because this ended up revealing a 5-wave structure here, which implied, right? So if this was our first impulse, we're not going to correct that with a 5. So that 5, once we broke this, right, now we've got you can see a clear 5-wave structure. So if this is ultimately going to resolve higher, then that can only be an A wave. And now you can see how this is unfolded here. So we get a 5-wave down for an A. We get a 3-wave B, goes right to the 50. Right, that's the halfway back. And then we've had this push down. This was the box I drew yesterday as I was trying to show you this trade and the loser here and how it was unfolding. And what we've got here is here's the 50%, right? Here's the 50% of the all the way halfway back. And then we've got the 786 of this pivot. And all I've done now is, and let me, here, okay, so I'm sorry, I know there's a lot on the chart here. What you're seeing here, this 50 right here, this 50 here, goes to this negative 23, and that's exactly where we go to the tick. So, right, algos. They sell the 50, take it to the 23, take profit. So now, the reason I drew the box is because we had, let me take that off. If this is going to start to go impulsive, are we still valid here? So let me declutter the chart. This is a little bit easier to see. Okay, so that's the 50 to the 23. Right, I also had this drawn because we know there's often a relationship between the A wave and the C wave. Okay, so okay. So the negative 618 of that lines up right with the 786 and the 50. So you had a confluence, right? You had a confluence. See the negative 618? So that's the length of what is now the A wave projected from the B wave, and that orange, that gold line there, you see it here, is the 618. That's 62% of this length projected from this high. Right? That's not an uncommon target for a C wave. There was also the potential for it to go all the way down here to the 100%, but we see we're getting a reaction here. It ends up going to the negative 23 off the 50 pull. I drew this little box here, said, hey, little cluster to pay attention to. Now, if that's going to be our low, then does this still play as a 2? Well, not off of this low. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Yes, because we are still internal to this low. But really, we're pulling the 50 off of this pivot down here. So is this, we can't discount all of this, right? It's across crypto and the majority of the majors, it's the lack of this move here resolving to a new low that's creating a lot of technical confusion. Because whether it's fib pulls or whether you're looking at an Elliott wave structure here, this is a problem. This is a problem. We've got it in Bitcoin. We've got it in Ethereum. We've got it in most of the majors. Most of the majors. How do we quantify this? Well, interestingly, it goes right to that little pocket between 618 and 65, but I'm pulling from this low to this high. So it's hard to read this from an Elliott perspective. So when that's the case, you got to pull back and say, okay, let's take the Elliott off, right? I mean, there's benefit here because we've seen this 3-wave structure. We saw the fib pull hit, but are we going impulsive here? It makes it very hard to count, right? Because this is not a 1. This is not. There's almost no way to count that. We'll leave this. Eventually, we'll be able to go back and Elliott intellectuals and academics will find a count that works there. I don't really care what it ends up being. What do I care about? I'm looking for low risk, high reward trade entries, and that qualifies here. So reasonable entry here. We've had a reaction. So what's the safer way to play? Because of the confusion. So one thought is, well, I can't count it. I don't know what it is. I'm going to look for another trade. Look for another market. If you want to trade this market because you have some longer term bias to Monero and you're a bull and you like it, the fundamental story, which I do, then this, just as we looked at it with the last chart, the safer way to play it is wait for this to reveal itself. Are we going to start a 5-wave structure here? And if we are, then we can simply wait for that to show itself. Is that going to move in some 5-wave sequence? Because we could get a diagonal there. All stays valid if we get a diagonal. And then wait for the first retracement. Now we have more confidence in this pivot because this is creating a lot of uncertainty about where are we going to resolve ultimately. This truncated fifth, it's really hard to count it from an Elliott perspective. So when in doubt, pull the fibs, look for good risk reward, and when in doubt, play it safe, right? So wait for this to be a confirmed pivot. And not, that we're not just going to do another 50, right? Because we could just, we could pull this swing down here, do the 50, and keep going lower. Okay, so if we get a 5-wave structure here, then that's encouraging. We'll end up eventually going back to figure out what this is, but right now we don't really care. I've got a 50 here from a swing low to a swing high, and I've got a cluster of fib activity. And if I go to the oscillators, we got some divergence here, RSI, right? So price is substantially lower here. RSI is higher here, sign of strength. We get, almost a 2.5 standard deviations from the VWAP. Again, another good sign. The Elliott oscillator is not giving us a lot to work with there, but there's a trade there. There's a trade there. If you're looking for one and you're a Monero bull, that's tradable. All right, moving on. Two that I tried to get to yesterday. I think as I got to these two, that's when my audio cut out. So let's start with NEO, right? And keep in mind, I'm still in all the majors. Let me get this off to the side. So if we go back to our list, right? We're still working with all the big dogs here. Everything we're looking at today, Dash, Monero, NEO, NEM, all in the billion plus market cap range, right? So these are your majors. These are your majors. NEM and NEO, both around 2 billion, Dash 2.3, Monero 1.37. These are major coins. So we know why do we go there? Because we know there's more liquidity and there's likely to be algo activity, which we can track. So let me get back to NEO. All right, NEO, this is a good one to show you because NEO does not have that same problem that we find in Bitcoin and Monero and Litecoin and Ethereum, where we did not get the push to a new low here. We didn't get it in those coins, but we did get the push here in NEO. Right, you clear one. ABC 2, here's the big 3, ABC 4 ends up being leading, ends up being a diagonal. There's the push to the new low, completing the 5-wave sequence, right? And is it a leading diagonal? Is it an ABC? Does it really matter here? Not really at this point. What can I see now? Coming up here, I've got a nice, clean, impulsive move here. If this is a leading diagonal, right? If this is a leading diagonal into an A wave, then this would not be unfolding in such a perfect impulse. So it leads me to believe that this is, again, we'll leave it to the Elliott academics to define where that's counted. I've got a completed structure here, and now I've gone impulsive. That's what matters to me. So again, when Elliott really is useful is when it's just staring you in the face. You can't miss it. Right? This is just technically beautiful, right? It's just almost perfect. So here, some sort of impulsive structure, right? Where is it a 1? Is it an? Doesn't matter. What am I looking for? I've got a completed 5-wave sequence, and I've had a reaction at the top. Now I'm starting to retrace. Now this is a 3-hour. What am I on? I'm on Bittrex. Okay, so I've got a little ABC here, but given the length of time here, I would be suspect of that being complete, right? So, and we saw this in Bitcoin. So my best guess here is that we've got this kind of thing unfolding, right? So there's our nice little. So we'd be looking for a zigzag, a 335, right? So there's a little A wave that looks like it may be in. If I open this up a little bit better, there's an A wave, right? So just to check it, we'll go from this pole because that was the last 50. To that high. We'll we get right in between the 50 and the 618. 618 holds it, and we get a little reaction. So where is that likely to go? Well, nothing says that couldn't be the pivot, and we go higher. But I think that if we're always looking for the odds play, what are the odds? The odds are that we're going to put in a B wave here. Let me put the wave on it so you can see it clearly. That would be the better trade. So if we wait and we want to get up here, that's the potential bull trap, or the head and shoulders, or however you want to look at that. What I see is an ABC. So when that comes up that direction, and let's blow it up a little bit more. I've got that negative 23 on here because that was something I was looking at yesterday. Okay, so if we're going to pull back, remember, it's always a battle between fibs. So if I pull from here to this low, what am I looking for? Right to the 618 would be ideal. Could be the 50, right? We'll have to wait. That's where oscillators can help. That's where we can get some benefit from that. If we get up there, well, there's the wave count, or the wave oscillator, the wave trend, as it's known, right? So, I'd like to see that come up and recycle here, give me the energy to come down. I'm not saying that it's a short, but what I'm saying is if you're a buyer, and we all kind of lean with a bullish bias in crypto, right? We need to acknowledge that. So what we're looking for is the high probability play. So this is another thing that can be useful that I've shown you guys recently. You can look at the length of time, right? How long was that A wave? That's 16 days, 135 bars. Well, this impulse, 135 bars. So let's do the same thing here. From here to the low, we're 12 bars. Right? We're looking for more symmetry there to encourage us that that an ABC here is fully correcting this impulsive structure. So I would like to see that move out a little further in time. Right, so if we got, I'm just eyeballing it here. That's at least about half of that. Right, so if we went out to this range, and again I'm just eyeballing it, right? But if we go in that sort of structure here, at least I'd get 50% of this length and time. Right, don't forget to consider the time. Even Elliott said, the wave structure, they have a certain look that's that you'll see if you look at enough wave counts as I have. You'll recognize that time plays a factor here. And so the ideal, next buy in NEO is down here at this 50. Right, we had this little cluster here. This is not as relevant as it once was because the 4 held the 1. So now we're just looking at the retracement of the entire impulse. ABC down to the 50. There's your next buy. There's your next buy. Let's go over to NEM, which is over here, and this is sort of back to that same problem. Okay, so here you can see it again, that issue we have in Bitcoin and a lot of the majors, right? Unlike NEO, right, which completed that 5th wave. Here, this is the question mark, because we have a 3-wave sequence here. So much like Bitcoin and Ethereum, in fact, this looks very much like Ethereum and Litecoin, right? So I'll just show you in Litecoin, right? This unresolved here, unresolved. Get rid of that. Unresolved here, right? We did not get the new low. Makes this really confusing. And look at Litecoin today, just sagging hard, right? We didn't get that 5-wave structure that we were hoping for. It's back at the 50, but that's not the kind of impulsive movement that you want to see. So let's go back to, where did I leave off? Here we are. Okay, so here's NEM. Okay, good story, interesting coin. You worthwhile if you don't know anything about it. Go over to CoinGecko, read about it. Interesting idea. Proof of importance. Right. This is very interesting, fundamental story. 60 on their scale, on their metric score. So one to pay attention to. Right. Look at the Google trend. So it got a lot of development interest. Interesting coin. Right. Read the story. We won't do that right now, but one to read. Okay, so let me get back to where we were. Okay, so now what is it? Right? So right now, much like Bitcoin, it looks like we've got an A wave, and because this unfolds in a 3, that looks like a secondary A, B putting in a C. Now, could that be the top there? This is, this is not looking great here. Not looking great. We would have liked to have seen that. You see how we wicked the median line here. Now I've got a Schiff pitchfork on here. Right, we went through that yesterday, I think, on the first video, explaining that difference. So we've got the difference being here that unlike the modified shift, we're not including time. We're just taking 50% of this price difference, right? And as we just look at the two of them, this seems to be holding the structure better. So we go right to the median line, right to the outside median line. Now this failure here to get to the median line on the second push, bearish. So could this be could we have a little bit of a double topping action here? Possible. That's not a good sign. That does not look, well, you can look here, say, okay, well, we have some sort of a 5-wave structure here. You can see that pretty easily, and I'm on a 4-hour. I'm on Poloniex here. So I've got some sort of an A wave here, or a 1 wave. I get a 2, but I do not get a 3, which is what we were looking for in the C wave. Right? We were looking for something to push us up this far, much like Bitcoin did, right? So Bitcoin's gotten even beyond those. So we get the sequence here. So that would imply this is an A. This could be an expanded flat. So we may have an A, B. We go up one more time. That's absolutely a contender to complete the larger B wave, right? So if I count it for you, if I can make this easier to see. So we could have an A, B, C, right? Let me change the degree. Let's go super small, and I'll go to a white to show it to you. Okay, so there's a 5-wave sequence, right? Completed, 5 waves. Then we get an A wave. An expanded flat will allow for the B wave to go just beyond the A wave. It fails here, fails to get up to the median line, and down we go. So we get an A, B, C. Now, is that technically valid here? Can we draw some fibs on it and get some context of just fib movement? Well, the 618 to the tick. Up, we fail to get to the 23. We go back down. We're in between the 50 and the 618. Any help from the oscillators? Well, we're not there yet. So this could go lower. And now I am on a 4-hour, right? So if we go, of course, if we look at it on a 1-hour, right, we're down here. Here you can see the nice 5-wave structure. Right, we thought it might be impulsive. It doesn't happen. We get kind of an A, B, C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would imply leading diagonal for this A. Then we get a nice 3 wave here for this B. And we come down, right? Now we've got our completed A, B, C of B. Right? One more time up would be the trade. So you could either look at this as, okay, I'm just, I don't know anything about Elliott wave. I don't really care about it. I'm just going to trade my fibs. All right, so you're right in the buy zone, if that's the case. You're right in the pocket between the 50 and the 618. If you're trading off the 1 hour, you got the wave trend here is down. We've got plenty of energy to get all the way up. So there's a trade there. It's a trade there. I mean, for me, it's not quite good enough, right? There's too many other trades to consider that set up a little bit better, right? And I'm still suspect of this problem we have counting all of these, which is this wave here. This is a problem. It's a problem. I know it's a problem for any Elliott trader, and it's ultimately, as I said earlier, we're going to be able to go back and count this, right, once the market reveals itself. But right now, this is a problem. So what do? Right? We just stick with what we know, what we can see. Right? I can draw a fib here. I'm in the pocket here. That tells me that minimum target here would be the -23, which, oh, by the way, happens to be within $1 or $2 of the 50% of the entire thing. So very reasonable trade. Look at the risk reward. That's what, 3, 4, 5 to 1. If your stop's below the 65, we've got this outer That's the 1.5 of the median line. So there's a trade there if you're looking for one. Not bad, nothing wrong with it. There's a first target, second target. Here's the negative 618, and ultimately we're looking for this to go back up and visit the median line, which would be right in line with that pocket on the 618 and the 65. So that's where we think it's going. If you're a NEM bull, that's that's not a bad looking trade right there, right? Your risk is really tight, really tight. If you're looking for a trade, that's not bad, not bad. There's your long-term target. Okay, how am I doing? I'm at 30 minutes. Okay, so hopefully the audio is okay here, and I'll wrap it there. We'll be back with a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin because we're getting some movement there, and it's worth just a quick review of what's unfolding. But I wanted to revisit these since we couldn't get that video working yesterday. Okay, guys, that's it. I'll be back to you later.